Alright, so today I'm going to do some sort of illustrative thing. I think I might work on a face loop sort of deal. Let me see what I have in my web store. It's not terribly cold here, which I think is why there's a bit more snow. I'm doing a lot of blockhead design things recently. I do have some face loops popped up in here. But I don't have softer sort of faces, so I might go for that. I think what I'm going to do is do some sort of sketching out some spaces that are just sort of rounded sort of bits, softer guys, and then come back and fill it in a bit. Okay, that's a wide enough angle to where I can do this vertically. Today won't be a long stream. And not burnt out, but like a little bit. Wanting to not take an outright break, but just pace things down a little. Because I've been accidentally doing things where I'm like, this will only be an hour, but it ends up taking like 3 hours to do something. And so don't want to do something that takes terribly long today. Yeah, I was trying to think of something to talk about, but it's just pretty much snow right now. I also got delayed because something I was expecting to be delivered on Friday, and it said it was delivered by tracking things, wasn't delivered on Friday, and I was like, I'll give it a day or two, and wasn't delivered yesterday, but then was delivered today, which was the least expected outcome of that. I got a little thing to put my cassette tapes on so that they aren't just loosely hanging around spots, which will be nice to have since I've been using cassette tapes frequently. I've been using them daily. I went from using them like maybe once a year to using them every single day. I think I'm the only person I know that's not. I don't know, there gotta be people who are like stuck in using cassette tapes as their primary means of listening to stuff. Whether or not it's just they invested the time, they've got like a better setup for it, they prefer it, I don't know. For me, I like having the physicality of it while being able to display it and record to it. So the things that are like the shortcomings of it are the things that I like, because you can see the passage of time on this as you watch and listen. I got an alert for public transit stuff that's like, which I have not been taking this past almost year. I haven't been on a train, a bus, or anything like that in almost a year. That inclement weather is happening. I'm like, I can see it. That's right there. But I got some sort of weather advisory, or they might be decreasing the service because the train that's around me goes above ground for a bit. Oh, thanks for joining up. Uh, so I've been doing like artwork things and posting it online for a while, uh, and so it's always in my mind. I'm like, I've been doing this for however many years. It's surprising that someone just now finds it, but it makes sense that someone just come across it whenever. Uh, this is going to be just a flat image illustration sort of thing. But I'm glad that you decided to stop through, check in, and see what's happening. And that me posting all the time that I'm gonna be live or that I am live. Oh, if you're curious about it, and you use Discord, I have a Discord server that I started recently. That I'll send you an invite to just now, in case you prefer or want to use that. No obligation to, but can utilize that if you'd like or not. It's a lot of what I post in other spots. It's just a different format. I'm trying to broaden where, when, and how I promote things. Gain some comfort in just sort of being like, here I am. And here I am again. And again. And again. And again. Without being too invasive or annoying. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, curiosities, suggestions, feel free to put that in the chat. If not, that is totally cool too. You can just watch, or you can participate as much as you'd like. The Discord isn't super active right now, but just trying to establish more of it happening in a different way that people can get notified or interact with things. Send links, because links are disabled for people just watching on Twitch. Most recent thing that happened is I've been doing some origami things recently, and someone was asking about that, and I was like, anything you want to see? And so she sent me an origami model, and I worked on that one yesterday, which took about an hour to 2 hours longer than I thought it would, but that was on me for switching over and not practicing ahead of time, or checking to see the model, how it would fold and whether or not it would be practical. And I switched to a different origami model of a frog that's simpler but has a lot more folds, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's less sculptural, the model that I used. But the thing that really makes that one increase in number of folds, or number of lines for the folds, is the fact that the one I chose, you initially fold it in half, and then you start doing stuff with it. Alright, now let's put some faces in here. And it's just a tiny bit back so it's not on screen. Now I'm gonna go through and fill in the solids. You'll have better success at removing tape if you pull it off the paper as opposed to towards or across the paper. This guy, let's see how this brush does. I cleaned it at some point. It was acting up a little bit before that. It's much easier for me to fill in the solids if I move the paper. That's why I can't have it taped down. It's easier to paint or do the outlines as well, moving the paper, but I try to keep it relatively stationary so that it's easier to understand watching the process, and I'll come back through and do a time lapse. You can lurk as much as you want. I'm not bothered by anybody. I'd rather you lurk than be like too enthused. I don't know, that sounds bad, but finding a balance. Someone who's always asking questions, just because it can get to be a bit much sometimes. And I'm someone who's spent a lot of time getting comfortable with being alone or being alone. And I was gonna say something else, but it sounded like I just said being a loner. Trying to think of what else might be going on with things. Not too much. I watched every or most Saturdays since pandemic stuff started. Been watching movies with my mom and sisters online through Teleparty. It was Netflix Party, but then it merged and is now something that you can use with different streaming things. But last night we watched Mystic Pizza, which is an odd movie because it seems like it's got like a bunch of ideas happening or like different storylines, but doesn't really focus in on any of them. Also weird saying younger Julia Roberts, because that was Pretty Woman, which sounds funnier saying it out loud than when I thought in my head. Pretty Woman. It was in 87, 86, 87 was when it came out. Mystic Pizza. Also, the opening credits have some pre-Photoshop photo manipulation. At least I think it's pre-Photoshop. I'm not 100% sure when Photoshop was available. But trying to edit the actresses together into childhood pictures. But they look weird. They aren't super well done. Mystic Pizza, just based on the name, made me think that it was somehow magical. It's not at all. It just takes place in Mystic, Connecticut. And they work at a pizza parlor. I was hoping there would be more magical pizza involved. There was none. Kind of magical in the sense that it's like, this is very good pizza. It's secret sauce. That was the extent of it. Also, weird. You get to see a very young Matt Damon. Matt Damon is in Mystic Pizza. In one scene, he plays a dude's like yuppie. He's a yuppie dude, waspy New Englander. But he's a main character, or major characters. A secondary character's younger brother. And he laughs when his brother makes fun of his dad, and that's most of it. And that's Matt Damon. I don't know how old he would have been, but it was probably filmed at least in '86. Most of the other characters, other than Julia Roberts, don't have. They do a lot of like character work over time. Whenever I watch a movie, I'm curious what other movies they popped up in. I have like a weekly call with my best friend from college, and inevitably we end up talking about. We just go to filmographies of different actors, actresses, and such, and it's weird seeing how robust some people's filmographies are. Like Richard Dreyfuss was in a crazy number of things. He was in a few different Spielberg and Spielberg adjacent things for a while. Like American Graffiti, what was it? Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws. He's in Jaws. And then he's in like a bunch of other things recently too, and it's just weird. We got looking at his filmography because we'd started looking at Cameo out of curiosity. I think it's because they talked about it on My Brother and Me. And we were curious who all you could get for what price. It's weird having like this very public display of your sense of personal worth as a celebrity. Like, what's it worth to me? And it's like supply and demand, and it's like some people are much more expensive than I thought they'd be. I'm surprised they're on Cameo. Only $50 to have Redman say happy birthday to my uncle. But Richard Dreyfuss was like $1,000 or something, and he only had like one example, and it was some dude telling a kid like it was him telling a kid like, good job at the chess championship, I know you're a fan of mine. And I was like, what's the kid that's super into Richard Dreyfuss? Who is this child who loves Lost in Yonkers? I don't know, but their parents have enough money to spend $1,000 on Richard Dreyfuss congratulating them at their chess game or something. Well, in front of a wooden Uncle Sam figure. Richard Dreyfuss also has that hanging out at his house. Weird things. But they exist. Trying to think how I got there, and I was like talking about Mystic Pizza and looking at people's filmographies. My younger sister is about 5 years younger. She was talking more about how Emma Roberts looks more like Julia Roberts in the movie, because Julia Roberts would have been like in her 20s? Early 20s? I don't know when she was born. I don't know Julia Roberts' age offhand, but she wouldn't have been like more than mid-20s for Pretty Woman, probably. And that was 90. 1990. Thanks for listening to my Richard Dreyfuss artist talk. I appreciate it. This is a little bit of an outlier of a discussion topic. Typically it's more just you're talking with some people that I know more specifically who are on the stream. That often ends up being about video games that we're playing or something like that. Or people asking questions about process. But if I'm left to my own devices, it's likely that I'll talk about some antiquated pop culture or some music things or something, or cassette tapes, or process stuff that's a little bit more involved and perhaps a bit unclear. I'm not always the best at explaining things because I get sidetracked. Right now, just filling in the rest of these solids. And it's easier to fill in the lips with the round brush than it is to fill in with the 1/4 inch shader. These brushes aren't really made for inking, but I like them for the price and what they can do. But the ink does soak up into the chamfers a bit, which is the bit of the brush that's up in there. Like here's the chamfer, I think. Now I'm gonna look it up to make sure that it is called the chamfer. And this isn't showing it, but it is a part of a brush at least. So I'm not making it up completely, just maybe not describing it entirely correctly. Still snowing a bit. Everything's pretty white. These brushes can get to where the bristles don't stay so cleanly together over time because I don't clean them super well, and they aren't meant for sort of ink. They work well, but they're also a little bit temperamental at times. Again, largely because I don't clean them regularly. I had one that I was using for pretty much the entirety of the Fiona Apple video that I worked on, and that was months of work, but I was regularly cleaning the brushes, and now it's just sort of like I do the thing and then I'll come back to it tomorrow. And it means that the brushes get worse faster. And it seems to be more prevalent with the angular shader. That's more of a flat brush. And I'm guessing that's because it's a little bit just more temperamental in general. And more difficult to create a straight edge with bristles than it is to create a general point. I just was thinking about the fact that I do a bit more repetitious or continuous. I'm doing things often on Twitch and what have you, and creating things in that manner might mean that people dislike the similarities of things day by day, week by week, and how that might get shifted a bit with a non-linear feed. It's still linear, non-sequential sort of feed that's algorithm based, but then I realized I label all of them by the day so people can see when something's from, whether or not it's actually new. I don't know that anybody does that as they're looking at stuff, but I just thought about the fact that it is a possibility that I've sort of built into the way that I share and post things out there. Just about done. Just need to film this a little bit here. I'm going for less than 45 minutes. That tape's about to end. Make sure it's generally dry. And let's open up the scanner, and that's off camera. Plug in the scanner. Pull up image capture. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Ever since I cleaned and reorganized my room, I've had a bit of a little bit more congestion and a little bit more sneezing. But since I have had my sneezing and mild congestion, I also have I got tested for COVID and it came back negative. So that's not what's happening. Scan. Stretch. Look at the snow. It is pretty. Where does it take that? It's almost done. I can go ahead and queue up Photoshop. File. Open. There, we're going live designs. This is a pretty high resolution scan for what I'm using it for. So I scanned it at 1200 dpi, which is 8 times the resolution that it would be at print. But you can see here how shallow the depth of field is on a scanner, because the wrinkles in the paper make it so this area is in focus and you can actually see like the fibers of the paper, but then this area, because the paper is warped slightly, it gets blurred. It's just interesting. I don't need it quite at that resolution, but it is there. Time to flip the tape. I like every now and again if there's someone new watching that they're like, oh, I thought that was just a graphic. And I'm like, nope, that's a tape. That's over in the other corner of my room. Increasing this contrast. I'm actually gonna crop this down just a little bit so that it's slightly more even around the edges. Has anybody done like a YouTube song parody thing of Work by Rihanna, but it's Lurk? Because that's what I thought of with your last comment, cacti being Lurk. JPEG, this is tum.jpg because it's slightly off of the cropping for stuff on Instagram is 5x4, which if you're doing a 1080 wide that ends up being 1350 tall, and the aspect ratio for an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper is a little bit taller than that. It would end up being 17 by 22, which I don't think that, that doesn't divide more evenly. This isn't going to be a huge difference visually for you watching here, but there's that image. Oh, I can do the comparison thing. It's not terribly different, but there you go. Boom, boom. I guess a little bit larger so you can see it. The aspect ratio for stuff makes it so I'm going to do this quickly. If you're ever trying to take something that's going from an 8.5 by 11 to and drawing and taking up most of the page, you're going to have to adjust it and give it a little bit of a border if you want to throw it onto Instagram. So let's blow that out so that there's not an obvious border. Make the width just a little bit larger. And now that's prepped for Instagram. It's not terribly different, but it's just a little bit different. I'll show you. See, a little bit thicker on the edges, and I blew out the texture because I guess it's just locked physically. So that there wouldn't be an obvious break at the edge of the paper where the texture of the paper and the warped aspect pushes it either way. So, spiel time. Thank you for watching. Welcome, Cacti. I'll be streaming again tomorrow and the next day, and unless something comes up, I'll be streaming daily at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Based on the fact that you said you had 2 feet of snow, I'm guessing you're on the eastern on the East Coast. Might be wrong. Anyway, but 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time daily, typically on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I do animations or longer form streams. Thursday, a little bit shorter. Friday, long again. And then Saturday, Sunday, shorter. And that's just because I have some family friends and such obligations that I have weekly, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So don't want to push that as far, because after I do these broadcasts, then I compile all the different footage that I recorded and the scans and stuff, and then prep it for promotional and posts and such, as well as t-shirts. So if you want to buy this design on a t-shirt or similar designs, or if you want to buy this outright or other things that I've done, anything that I have for sale, you can find at traceloops.com/store. The t-shirt design will be up within the hour, and as well as an option for purchasing this sort of thing. If you want to buy it and you're not based in the United States and want to have it shipped outside of the US, there's not a direct option within the website, but you can email me and I'll work with you to get it shipped out. I have something going out to Norway hopefully tomorrow, so it depends on snow and where things are. But if you want to facilitate getting something shipped outside of the US, you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com. You can also email me with general questions and such. If you want to follow me on other platforms, you can follow me on instagram.com/traceloops. You can also follow me on tiktok.com/@traceloops. You can also follow me on Tumblr, traceloops.tumblr.com. I still upload there, but I don't have the same engagement that I once did because people aren't as active on Tumblr as they once were. It was not there. Okay, I was gonna just reiterate that I also have my Discord server that you can hop on if you would like to. Trying to figure out how to best get that more active. If you have any suggestions, want to hop on there, just chat, ask questions, perfect place to do so. International shipping stuff, that's easier to keep track of as emails, and it means that you don't have to post any personal information on a semi-public forum, which is better to do. Keep it private for that sort of bit. Anyway, thank you for watching. Appreciate you tuning in. Be back tomorrow. I'll have this. Oh, I forgot to throw in here that you can also watch old streams as well as some other stuff on youtube.com/traceloops. So if you want to watch this stream in full at a later time, or if you want to watch other things, previous streams, shortened versions, time lapses and such, you can head on over to YouTube. This will be up in an hour or so. 2 hours, depends. Sometimes it's a little bit slow to process because some of these are longer form video files. So, thanks for watching. I'm gonna head out now. Enjoy the snow, and adios.